I've heard it all before. Don't need to hear it again. Same old song, you're doing me wrong. I've heard it all before. I see that look in your eyes. I know you're feeding me lies. Same old dance, void of romance. I've heard it all before. Day in and day out on this merry-go-round, spinning me into the ground, stuck in a sea of apathy, and I can't get out. Can't get out. So I black out and get off the grid. Yes, I black out, get off the grid. I'm done with your face. I'm done with your friends. Not even a look. I finished this book and I know how it ends. The monopoly I see on TV. Heroes die while all the women cry. It's boring to me. Sooner or later, every rock in the river breaks down. Over and over, overexposed.
Thank you so much for that. That was really, really, really special. And although I put a lot of pressure on you before we got started, you came through in the clutch. That was amazing. Thank you so much. Why don't you let everybody know what they just heard?
You heard, it's the opening track from my new album. The song is called Blackout. It's an original song, and the album is called Nothing Never Happens.
Well, we really appreciate you stopping through WRTI 90.1 today and giving the listeners and viewers a special treat, a preview, if you will, of what's going to take place a little later on this evening at South Jazz Parlor.
Yes, indeed. It's my very first time performing there, really the first time presenting my own music and ideas here in Philly. So I'm excited. We're at South tonight and tomorrow night.
And it's 7 and 9:30 this evening?
Yes,
okay.
Exactly.
Well, you have a phenomenal band with you with a twist on drums. Why don't you let everybody know who's with you today?
Absolutely. On all the keys, the piano, the Nord, all the keyboards, the very, very wonderful, talented John Thomas. Yes. My newest friend on the drums, Kyrie, all the way from, what part of Philly do you live in?
Kyrie Shahid.
Representing some hometown local flavor. And my mainstay bassist, wonderful guy, player, this is Devin Starks. Hi, Devin.
Well, it's great to have everybody with us today and to have Kyrie back with us again. He's part of the revolving door. We have an audience here that's really quiet as well. You know, you're allowed to clap. You're allowed to clap. It's okay. All right. Well, you know, as you mentioned, you know, this is the first time as a leader in Philadelphia. You guys got a chance to taste some Philadelphia cuisine today.
Yes, thank you.
What did you end up eating?
Well, we have a really good, the recommendation here was to order from Hughes Fusion, is it? Yep. Let's see, between us, we had a chicken cheesesteak, a buffalo cheesesteak, some bulgogi, and some stir fry. I mean, all sorts of delicious food. And that's bringing our flavor and our energy right back up now. Yeah, we're ready to go.
That's wonderful. As a Canadian, you know, making your way to the United States, a lot of folks obviously are aware of the wonderful jazz musicians that hail from, you know, the great North, but many are not. If you can talk a little bit about the scene for you coming up and what's happening now.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, there are so many phenomenal Canadian jazz artists. Oscar Peterson, we like to take credit for him.
Sure,
Rob McConnell, Boss Brass. Many of my favorites, contemporaries, Ingrid Jensen, Rini Rosnes, of course, you know, Diana Krall, everybody. There's a phenomenal lineage there. But for me, I grew up about an hour and a half driving east of Vancouver on the West Coast. Chilliwack, yes, exactly. Everybody here say Chilliwack. Chilliwack, yes. That's my only goal in life. Put Chilliwack on the map. If you drive through Canada, you can't miss it because it's the best place to get a Tim Hortons coffee on your way to Vancouver.
There you have it.
But my hometown, I mean, we had a jazz festival as well that actually focused on a lot of the roots of jazz music. Louis Armstrong, Jill Earl Morton. So that was my first introduction to loving jazz music, along with the big band that I played in. And then I went to Capilano University in Vancouver, and it's just, you know, it's representative of a lot of these scenes that aren't in meccas like New Orleans, Los Angeles, or New York. It's like the people who teach at the school are the best players in the city. They're recording, they're playing in funk bands, they're doing things. It's just a really close-knit, tight culture of people too. So I feel very lucky to have, you know, spent my time there and gotten my bearings before moving to the big city. Yeah.
No, that's wonderful. Well, we're going to hear another tune.
Sure.
Coming up. What's the next selection that you're going to present?
Yeah, so a lot of this album for me is about taking myself off the grid, as the last song alluded to, and processing a lot of, you know, the information that has been coming in. I'll say information lightly, you know, media, news, etc. Just life. We're all well aware of it, and taking a minute to just, you know, make music to again process that. So this next song was one that I wrote shortly after attending the Women's March in New York City. Yes, I see a couple crowd members who put their hands up. Excellent. And that was such an inspiring experience, you know, being around millions of people, men and women, of course, celebrating, you know, change. And so I went right after to the piano, and this is what came out. It's called Villain Vanguard. Nothing to do with the Village Vanguard, the jazz club, but that that wall that we want to push through.
This happens to be my favorite tune on
Oh,
the
right.
new
Okay.
project as well.
Oh.
So this is wonderful.
Right.
So thank you so much. Once again, great to have you here, and a little villain vanguard for the audience.
Thank you.
Once again, thank you so much. That's amazing. Bria Skonberg's here with us at WRTI 90.1. Once again, my name is J. Michael Harris' son, and it's truly a pleasure to have you guys here. For the folks out there that are viewing this, if they need some more of this, they can get it tonight at South.
Yes.
Again, there's 2 sets at 7 and 9:30, and it should be phenomenal. South's a great space, and I'm sure there's additional energy for you to get out to Philadelphia. The first time as a leader in Philadelphia performing. Obviously, you've had wonderful educational opportunities, and as your career continues to develop, playing the role of educator seems to be a significant part of what you do. If you can maybe talk a little bit about what it means to you and these opportunities that you're able to present.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, this morning I was in upstate New York. Don't ask me about that drive. Working with students at Binghamton University, which is a real treat. You know, both my parents were public school teachers, and I'm a product of good public school band programs and support. So I would definitely want to make sure that stays, that I can support those sort of groups whenever possible. I didn't gravitate toward teaching as quickly because I think I was intimidated by it. But as I've been in more situations working with students, I realize it's just another level of improvising that is really fun. Like, you don't know what you're dealing with until you get yourself in a room of students and say, okay, let's see what we have in common and play something together, and then I'll do my best to lend whatever experience I have to bring you to the next level. And I find I always end up learning even more.
Yeah.
A lot of us have done education work with groups like Jazz at Lincoln Center, doing either concerts, focusing on the history of jazz and America, which, being a Canadian, I think I'm quite obsessed with it, actually. I always loved the music, and but I think as I've learned more about the history of the music, and specifically the history of the people that came together around it, and the story of how it's helped America and immigrant culture and everything, I just think that those are things that we could use the music as a vehicle to really open up more of those conversations, those discussions.
No, that's wonderful. There's a quote on your website where you speak to jazz allows you to fly and spread joy.
Yeah, it's the closest I can get to flying. That's what it feels like, at least when you have a good rhythm section. Otherwise you're just falling. But they've got the wings, and I'm just flying over it.
Yeah, no,
yeah,
that's wonderful. We're going to hear our final selection in just a bit, but on that same level of education, as a musician, there's a lot of folks out there that may say, Bria, what are you doing? Why would you want to pursue that? Music? Are you crazy?
Yes, I am.
But what do you say? What do you say, especially to the young folks out there that have that desire, those inspirations, and are motivated to do it? But again, some folks may play naysayer on their journey, on their path.
I mean, the arts are essential. And the more that they get cut from programs, the more that I just want to get involved with them, because they're the voices. By creating art, we are documenting, everything that's going on. And by taking the arts away, you're taking away the voice of a generation of the younger people, which is extremely necessary right now, always. And I want to hear it. So most definitely. I mean, you don't necessarily have to make music your full-time profession, number one, to still participate in it. But if you do, there are more opportunities now, I believe, than ever before. Sure, there are less jazz clubs, less very special places like South, but there are also, you can write music for video games. You can write music there are hundreds and hundreds of TV shows coming out like almost every month that are, you can just try to find different avenues to get your music in. The opportunities, I think, are greater, and there's more options to hear music and to digest music, to get it in your system. So I'm very positive about it. I mean, my parents were always like, okay, get a degree and figure out a way to sustain yourself financially, obviously. You do treat yourself like it's a small business, and get up in the morning, get to work, like everybody else, and having the discipline to set your own schedule and stuff is fortunately something that maybe came a little more naturally to me. But I cannot put any sort of price tag on the priceless experience that I've had from playing this brass instrument. I had no idea, especially if I'm talking to younger people. It's like, I had no idea. I had maybe some dreams, but I had no idea where it would take me, or just the emotional ride that I would get to enjoy and be part of, and places that we would travel. We've all been all over the world, and meet beautiful people, eat some really good food. It's an amazing life. It really is.
That's
but
wonderful.
it's not boring. You got to be
Yes.
up for an interesting adventure.
Yeah, most definitely. What's the final selection we're going to hear?
The final selection is is an interesting adventure on its own. It's called "So Is the Day," and this is a song that I actually wrote quite a while ago, maybe almost 10 years. But it's stuck with me because as I've grown and as I've gone through different things, it has grown with me, and I've just interpreted it different ways along the way. So I decided to re-record it for this album.
That's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
Once again, this is Bria Skonberg.
Thank you. Thank you. So is the day that I write this song. I love you, but I can't have you. So is the day that I write this song. I want you, but I can't have you. So is the day that I sing this song. I want you, but I can't have you. So is the day that I sing this song.
Very nice work. Once again, Bria Skonberg with us. We thank you so much for stopping by.
Thank you so very, very much for having us. A pleasure. Easily, very excited again to be playing at South Kitchen tonight with these guys. And I want to thank John Thomas, Kyrie on the drums, and Devin Starks on the bass. Of course, you and the incredible group here for having us.
So
and our audience. Hey, Ben, how about a round of applause for this audience right here? Yeah, good job. Good job.
Most
job.
definitely. And definitely a shout out to Marlene on the camera and to Paul and Tyler inside handling all the sound and all the shots and all of that. But again, we really appreciate you coming through and sharing a little bit with us today. If folks want to keep up with what's going down, all things Brie, what's the best way to do that?
Oh, thanks. The easiest way to find me online is to Google Bria Trumpet. It's easier than spelling my last name. Otherwise, briaskonberg.com. I'm on everything, Instagram, Facebook, etc. Yep, please come. And the new album, Nothing Never Happens, is available on every streaming platform. I'll have copies available to sign at the gig tonight and tomorrow, of course.
So everyone in the Philadelphia tri-state area should be at South tonight. 7 o'clock, 9:30. It should be a blast. Again, thank you so much.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. Thank you. Thank you.